Hare Krishna devotees, Nadav Pranam. Welcome to Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Today we are fortunate to have the association of His Grace Madhav Sharan Prabhu will be sharing the nectar from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter number 31 and sloka number 13. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Nadav Pranam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dandatam. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. First of all, I would like to take the blessings of all the assembled devotees and thank you for giving the opportunity. Today we are covering from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 31 chapter and 13th shloka. The chapter is entitled Narada Instructs the Prachetas. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shreyasamapi sarvesham Atmahi avadhir artatha Sarveshamapi bhutanam Hariratmatmada Priyaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. Factually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original source of all self-realization. Consequently, the goal of all auspicious activities, karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. The living entity is the marginal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the material world is the external energy. Under the circumstances, one must understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is factually the original source of both matter and spirit. This is explained in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 7.4 and 5. Bhumirapo nalo vayu kammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritirashtadha apareyam itastva anyam prakritim vidime param jivabhutam mahabhavo edam dharyate jagat. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. But besides this inferior nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mine which consists of all living entities who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe. So we can see the purport as we are covering the class. So this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada Muni is instructing the Prachetas. Actually, Prachetas here, they are showing the humility and they want to make sure that they are not deviated from the actual goal of life without compromising the actual goal of life, which is pure devotional service. Narada Muni explains also what is the goal of other processes in the previous section a little bit, and here what exactly is the meaning. The Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, they are not a separate deviant path. Actually, they are also leading to this Supreme Personality of God. Jesus is leading to same goal, the Supreme Personality of God at Krishna. But they are not as direct as Bhakti Yoga. In the beauty and the glory of Bhakti Yoga is the goal and the process both are the same. They are one and the same, goal and the process. So that's the reason there is no much risk involved in Bhakti Yoga. If one is serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead through Bhakti, that means he's already situated in the goal. Uh, whether one is practicing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti or whether one is practicing Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, the activities are the same activities. Both Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakta or the Raganuga Sadhana Bhakta, what they are doing, the activities are the same. Only the difference is the intensity of devotion or the eagerness. So it is natural for the Raganuga Bhakta to get instantaneously attracted to the Lord, spontaneous attraction. Whereas the Savaidi Sadhana Bhakta, he may be having some regulated or the forced activities. Sometimes he has to struggle and do it. But the goal and the activities both are the same. But in other processes like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga, the processes and the goal are not the same. So because there is a gap between the process and the goal, there are chances that one may get deviated. So Narada Muni speaks in this section, in fact in the next shloka, what it is coming, very important shloka. Yata taror moola nishechena तृप्त्यन्ति तत्स्कंद भुजोपशाखा प्राणोपचार च यतेन्द्रियाणां तथैव सर्वार्हणम् अच्युतेज्य. If you water the root of the tree, all the parts are nourished. So that means you catch hold of the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead tightly. So catch hold of the goal very tightly. If you don't catch hold of the goal properly, and if you have some sub goals or some other priorities, then there may be chances that you may not be achieving your complete goal, and some other goal may stand up. So that is the reason anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavratam anukulena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttam. So in purport, also Srila Prabhupada here, he's mentioning that Krishna personally guides all living entities. In the purport we can see Lord Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 10.10. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Tesham satata yuktanam. So yuktanam means already there is connection between the Lord and the Supreme Lord and the devotees. Means already situated. Sometimes even after, here Lord is telling Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. I give the intelligence. So Lord is giving the instructions, and the sincere devotees, they follow as it is. But sometimes even after giving the instructions by Supreme Personality of Godhead, some rebellious living entities, they have their own goal. They have decided, I will follow my own goal. I have my thing to do. I have my separate goal. I will follow my goal. Even though they may be theoretically knowing Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but still they have their own goal. So that is why theoretical and practical, there are a lot of difference. Theoretical knowledge as well as the practical, what we are following. So in Mahabharata, we see the examples of Duryodhana and Karna. Actually, Duryodhana, he had his own interest, and he was ready to do his own goal, and he is ready to go to any extent to do his, do anything or everything to achieve that goal. And Krishna came and he told, you give these 5 villages, to Pandavas. Share it with Pandavas. But Duryodhan, his goal was self-centeredness and the sense gratification. So Duryodhana did not take the instructions or the words of Krishna so seriously. So we learn these different lessons from Duryodhana's life also. Here we can see even at the end of his life, Duryodhana was beaten up, and he was beaten up by Bhima. Still at the end of life, he is having self-centeredness. And when Ashwatthama and Karpacharya, they came to meet Duryodhana, then at that point also, Duryodhana is is thinking about my family. So that he is thinking to appoint Ashwatthama as the king, or he's telling that, my wife is still surviving. So in that time also, Duryodhana is thinking about myself, my I-centeredness. So this is infatuation by self-centeredness. So because that was the goal of Duryodhana. Theoretically, he knew Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And after the battle, one battle which happened previously with Krishna, Balram, and the Kauravas, Duryodhana says that you are like the puppeteer. I am like the machine which is working as you are directing. But what can be done? I know what is dharma, but I can't give up adharma. Enjoying sense gratification is the goal. So Krishna spoke many times to Duryodhana, but Duryodhana did not change his goal. So similarly, we see Karna's life. Krishna came and told him that you are the eldest son actually, and you take part of Pandavas. Yudhishthir Maharaj will happily give the throne to you. So, but Karna's goal was not to please Krishna. He had his own independent goal. What was that goal? I cannot betray my friendship. So actually, dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. So everything we are doing, or whatever Krishna is pleased, we have to do. But here Karna's goal was to maintain friendship. And he is telling, Duryodhana has done so much for me. I know that all inauspiciousness will come to me. I know that death is guaranteed to all persons who are following Duryodhana. But my goal is, I will not betray Duryodhana. So here we can clearly see Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is personally coming and telling Karna. But he is not ready to please Krishna, but he he has different goal, to not betray Duryodhan. So Karna says, I know it, but I can't follow your instructions. So here we can see different goals. Even though they knew Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, theoretical part is there, but practically they are not able to apply it. So Srimad Bhagavatam is such an exalted scripture. It is wonderful scripture that every page directs us towards maintaining our goal. This is the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. That our goal is fixed when we are reading, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Our goal becomes fixed. And what is that goal? Goal is to attain Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what here Prachetas they are telling. The goal of all auspicious activities is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So whatever it takes to please Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, we are doing to do it, or if we need to give up something, we are ready to do that. But in the material world, the risk is sometimes so great that even if one living entity or if one devotee has even a slightest of the material desires, then he has to take another body. So Srila Prabhupada gives the example of gulab jamun. So if one has the slightest desire of eating gulab jamun, then he has to take another body. So this is very we may be thinking, oh, is it so high standard? Then this we can understand from Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj is regretting. So actually he went and did all the austerities. And when Lord gave darshan to him, he came to know goal is Krishna. What I'm asking is not a tangible, or it's like broken pieces of glass. It's not substantial. But Krishna told him, you have to accept Dhruva Loka because he wanted it. And then Dhruva actually started regretting, actually, in one sense, because he is thinking now he got the diamond, but I was asking for broken pieces of glass. But in that sense, actually, it is better than better to be fixed at the right goal than to fix on the wrong goal. Even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we see the example of Tapan Mishra. Tapan Mishra was sincere, but he was not fully aware of what actually is the goal. He was searching. He was reading so many scriptures. He was not able to understand in the beginning what is the goal of life. But that is far better because he was sincerely trying to understand what is the goal of life. When Srila Prabhupada went to Western countries, there were hippies and they had no particular goal. They were engaged in some kind of sense gratification. But when Srila Prabhupada offered him the higher goal, they easily accepted it because they did not have any other goals. So when Srila Prabhupada was offering this goal of pure devotional service, they accepted it happily. But in India, there were so many philosophers. And when Srila Prabhupada presented to him, they were not willing to accept it. Either some people in India, they were too much of materialistic. We will go to West and we will make the money. This is the goal, to settle down and have a bungalow or house and children and settle down. This is the goal. Or there were some spiritualists, their goal was impersonalism. When we become perfect, we become God. Even they could not accept the philosophy presented by Srila Prabhupada, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. They did not accept it. They were either they were confused about materialism and they were taking to materialism, and about some people were confused about the spiritualism, but they were not wholeheartedly accepting it. But in hippies, they accepted it. So that's why we should be willing to hear from the authority. It becomes very easy. No, we can, if they would have heard from Srila Prabhupada, it would have become very easy. There is nothing much difficulty. Even we can see in hippies, There were so much of conditionings were there. Conditioning was very, very strong. But they accepted a philosophy presented by Srila Prabhupada. But in India, there were so many people, they were already following four regulative principles and so many things. But they did not accept it because their wrong goal was fixed in their mind. They were fixed on the wrong goal. Wrong goal was very clear for them. Impersonalism or materialism. So that's why a very, very important point is to accept the authority and follow and hear from them and follow the authorities. So Madhvacharya explains that when Jivatma identifies, its identification is becoming very strong with the body or mind. It becomes a kind of vicious cycle. And to get out of that vicious cycle is not very easy. And Madhvacharya says there are different types of identification which the Jivatma does. Identification with the body, identification with the mind, identification with the intelligence, identification with the life air, and identification with the false ego, identification with the consciousness. So this Jivatma is identifying with the body and so many things. And when it identifies with all these different elements, the reaction is there. And because of this misidentification, so-called so-called the identification, real, they call it real identification. I am the body, and sense gratification is the goal of life. But actually, it is a ignorance, avidya. When the reaction of identification is there is ignorance or avidya. And this avidya leads, when it is very, very deep, it is very difficult to come to the real nature of the soul. And what is the real nature of the soul? Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nitya Das. So Srila Prabhupada explains the whole purpose of devotional service means to coming to our constitutional position and to understand that we are dasa dasanudasa. Gopi bhartur padakamalayora dasa dasanudasa. We are servant of the servant of the servant. So when Sanatana Goswami raised this question, Kim ame? Who am I? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told, you are eternal servant of Krishna. Krishnera Nitya Das. So as long as the identification is there with whatever the material body or the mind, it is very difficult to come to the our eternal nature, which is Satchidananda. Soul is Satchidananda. But we are identifying with the Atsat, Achit, Nirananda, all these jada things. The Bhumir Apo Nalo Vayu Kham Mano Buddhi Revach. All 8 elements, earth, ether, water, fire, mind, intelligence, false ego, they are separated material energies. Lord, it's of the Lord. It's the inferior energy. Lord is clearly mentioning it. And when this is happening, the misidentification is happening, and there is a clash. It's very difficult for the soul to understand the real nature. So the pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada can pick us up. They can remove the covering of the ignorance. So when they remove the covering of ignorance out of their causeless mercy, then even there may be some conditionings. But with their mercy, we can serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Service, we can do the service. We can serve in the temple. We can do service to Vaishnavas. So service to Supreme Personality of Godhead and service to Vaishnavas slowly will destroy all the identification, misidentification. And Srila Madhvacharya, he explains, when one identifies himself with the material body, what happens? What is the consequence? One undergoes so many miseries, suffering, dukhalayam, ashashvatam. So I am comparing my body with another's body, whose body may be not so great. Then what? It's kind of relative. This world is world of relativity. Uh, my body is better, so I feel some pleasure. But as the immediately as a I see somebody's body is much better than me, then I feel miserable. And identification with the body, there may be some unquenching lusty desires, and one tries to fulfill the lusty desires. Then what happens? Again, he's bound. Mm. He tries to fulfill that, but he is undergoing constant miseries, unlimited miseries. And it is said, when one tries to fulfill the lusty desires, all the sufferings will follow that, all the sufferings of the world. So because of this identification with the body, there are so much suffering. And the same thing happened to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. When he is in the initial thing, we see when Arjuna tried to identify himself with the body, he started feeling mouth dryness, weakness. He could not hold the Gandiva bow. And Krishna told him, you are not this body, you are the soul. So this, when the soul identifies himself with the material body, then there is misery or suffering. And sometimes there may be identification with the life where prana. So when he identifies with the prana, he experiences hunger. So that's why we do so much of food for life. Charity, some organization may do charitable activity. The whole intention of thing is, when the stomach is full, one can hear Shrimad Bhagavatam. The goal is to hear Shrimad Bhagavatam. The goal is clear here. Uh, the goal is not to fulfill the demands of the body, but the goal is very clear, that when the needs of the material body is fulfilled, then we can focus on the higher goal. So that's why goal is to know about Krishna, and just we have to do the needful. So this is when one identifying with the prana, one experiences the hunger. And the third one, when one identifies with the mind, Srila Madhvacharya says, he suffers panic or disappointment or anxiety, because the nature of the mind is to accept and to reject, sankalpa and vikalpa. So we know that in 21st century, mental depression is the biggest disease. So that's why everybody naturally wants to become peaceful. I want to be peaceful. But devotional service does not guarantee peace. In fact, in higher stages, devotional service guarantees transcendental anxiety. So if one is performing devotional service to attain peace, then he is not rightly situated. He has to come above the platform of mind. You have to raise above. So there is no guarantee of mental peace when we take up to devotional service. And even in fact, we see, we may ask whether pure devotees suffer. Pure devotees suffer seeing the miseries of others. Para dukha dukhi. So there is no mental peace, guaranteed, but there is always transcendental anxiety, like the pure devotees are undergoing. Para dukha dukhi, seeing others suffer, they are also suffering. But that anxiety is completely spiritual anxiety. But if we are thinking in terms of material, it is hurting me, so I will avoid it. I want mental peace. Then it is not devotional service. So if the intention is on the mental peace, one will not get much benefit in being in pure devotional service path. So the goal should be pure devotional service, not the mental peace. So this is when one identifies with the himself with the mind. So what happens when with one identifies himself with the intelligence? There is a existential bitterness. There can be some frustrations happening deep within the heart. Shastras explain engagement in service, Krishna's service, gives the understanding of Krishna. Here, that's what here it's mentioned. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. So when one is connected with the Supreme, then all the understanding will naturally be given to him. How to come back to Godhead. It is given as a gift. This devotional service, it's given as the reward. That is the process of bhakti. That's actually the benefit. In other processes, karma, yoga, only the part things are used. For example, in karma yoga, what's happening? One has the sense desires. He uses his senses, and whatever outcome comes, that results he will offer it to Lord. Results are given to Krishna, but he is still attached to senses. When one engages in this, when you engage in some sense activities, some results may come here and there, and those results you are offering to Krishna. In Jnana Yoga, the faculty is the mind, then in that he offers to Krishna. In Ashtanga Yoga, the faculty is intelligence, focus intelligence on, fix the intelligence on Paramatma. And in Bhakti Yoga, everything is used. Senses, mind, intelligence, everything is used in Krishna's service. So that's why Bhakti Yoga begins from the heart, and it is covering all the levels, even at the level of consciousness, senses, mind, intelligence. Even the our ego becomes true ego. I am the servant of Krishna. Jivara Swarupai, Krishnera Nitya Das. So that is the reason, when one studies Bhagavad Gita, such scriptures, one is a devotee, then he will worship with the intelligence, and then he practically applies those things using the senses. He uses his mind. So many things. So there's a goal is the worshipping of Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if you are not a devotee, if one is a impersonalist, he may interpret Bhagavad Gita in so many different wrong ways, and he cannot attain the goal. And next thing, when one identifies with the false ego, false ego, what happens when one identifies with the false ego? Sometimes he may feel that I am low, because that identification of I and mine is there. Then what happens? Feeling of lowness is there. So Kapila Muni explains to Mother Devavati, there are three kinds of devotional service. Devotional service in Tamoguna, devotional service in Rajoguna, devotional service in Sattva-guna. Of course, that transcendental devotional service, pure devotional service is there. But, Daksha Prajapati, we know that in the arena of fire sacrifice, Daksha Prajapati knew that Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to please Vishnu was the goal of that sacrifice. In devotional service in Tamoguna, what happens? There is violence, there is hatred, there is anger involved. But they also know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then they relate with devotees. But here Daksha Prajapati, he was having false ego. False ego was involved there. That's why when the sacrifice, he came to sacrificial arena, everybody got up, including Brahmaji. But Shiva was immersed in thoughts of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's why he did not get up. And Daksha Prajapati is having the false ego, is thinking, he is my son-in-law. Even though you were not qualified, I gave you my daughter. Now you are not respecting me. Actually, respect is not a big thing. But here, because of the false ego, he was expecting something, respect, and the entire yajna was spoiled. And he lost the head, he got the goat head, and his false ego was still too much. He had to give up that material body. And in the sixth canto also, what happened? He was given the duty of increasing the progeny. That was the duty given to Daksha Prajapati. But Narada Muni's duty was to uplift the conditioned souls and give them the higher spiritual knowledge, which Narada Muni was doing. Is to give this knowledge so that one does not get another material body. That was the duty of Narada Muni. So here we have to understand, it sometimes we think in our own perspective. The conditioning is so much that the way I am doing is the best way, because that false ego is there. Sometimes devotees tell grahastha ashram is the best, sannyas ashram is the best, brahmacharya ashram is the best. This is my point of view. There is nothing that this ashram is best, that ashram is best. Whichever suits one devotee for the best progress in the path of pure devotional service, the devotee will accept that particular ashram and progress in the path of pure devotional service. There may be so many point of views. So, but all that should not be based on the false ego. So similarly here, what happens? Daksha, out of false ego, is cursing Narada Muni. Because I gave birth to so many sons, and Narada Muni is also, he's doing his duty. But here the Daksha is thinking only in terms of his duty. He's not thinking about the duty of the Narada Muni. So this is another thing we have to learn, that even we are doing some services, we have our services, that is very much important, and we have to do the service very nicely. But we should not be insensitive about others service also. Here Daksha Prajapati was insensitive to Narada Muni's service. He was thinking only in terms of my service. So that's why he gives the curse, more than 3 days you should not stay in one place. But Narada Muni was doing the higher service that Daksha Prajapati could not understand. Here when we see in the story of Prachetas, Vishnu came and glorified the Prachetas. Why? Because there was wonderful cooperation between the Prachetas, and that is very, very important factor, to cooperate. Srila Prabhupada told, you can show your love for me by how you cooperate with each other. So that's the reason we have to cooperate. It's not that only my service. Our service should be seen with the service of other devotees also. Sometimes, with the right spirit, we have our service, but other devotees have others their service. So there should be right spirit. The intention should be to please Lord Krishna. Here Daksha, his bhakti is not pure devotional service. It is in the mode of ignorance, because false ego was the greatest impediment. So this is the problem. Sometimes false ego causes havoc. And next, Srila Madhvacharya says, identifying with our own consciousness. You know, how we can understand how Krishna thinks and how sometimes conditioned souls thinks. Krishna always thinks about his devotees. He's a Bhakta Vatsala. But the problem with the conditioned souls is that actually the Jivatma should think about Krishna, and Krishna will think about devotees. Krishna is doing his part. Krishna is always thinking about devotees. But the Jivatma is not thinking of Krishna. Jivatma is thinking about his own sense gratification instead of thinking about Krishna. So conscious about his own thing, self-conscious. Uh, that's why what happens when one becomes I and mine conscious, then memories of the past experiences will take over. Because I experienced this in the past, so I cannot practice my devotional service correctly now. I have that problem, I have this problem. I can't take Krishna consciousness seriously because I have this problem in the past. That's why sometimes we are too much conscious of our own self in the past, in the present, and in the future. But actually, Krishna consciousness means we should not be I conscious. We should be Krishna conscious. The goal should be remembering about Krishna. So pure devotional service. So pure devotional service means it's free from all the three modes of material nature. And when we aspire to practice and sacrifice to achieve pure devotional service, uh, uh, actually, in one sense, the aspiring devotee is as good as a pure devotee only, because that is bhakti is so great. That's why in one time, Srila Prabhupada was asked how many pure devotees are there. The answer Srila Prabhupada gave: how many devotees are practicing in ISKCON movement, Krishna consciousness? How many devotees are practicing Krishna consciousness? That many pure devotees are there. That is because if one's intention and goal is fixed, that is goal is pure devotional service, they are in one sense pure devotees. It is only the matter of time that they completely become pure. So that's the reason we see whether it's Narada Muni, Parikshit Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami, they are all they focus only on pure devotional service. There were no sub goals, there are no small goals, apparently small goals, there were not there. Because when apparently we focus on apparently small goals, that can create the disturbance, and our we may be diverted from our the real goal of life, that is pure devotional service. If we are not careful, little diversion in the small goals may lead to somewhere else, and uh, lose the focus. That's why Krishna says vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahushakayanantascha budayo vyavasayinam. So goal should be fixed and one should focus on the goal. Otherwise, what happens? Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam tayapaharata chetasam. Vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhona vidhiyate. One will be deviated. If he's having bahushaka anand, different sub goals, then he will be deviated. So that's what Karna and Duryodhan, they could have surrendered to Supreme Personality of Godhead, but there was conflict of interest between the real goal and their selfish goals, and they chose selfish goals. Karna and Duryodhana, they chose their own interest, self-interest, self goals, or selfish goals. So in devotee's life, there will be so many conflicts, so many tests will come, so many these conflicts of goals will come, and we should be focused on in our goal, that our goal is pure devotional service, and we will focus on this goal and we will go ahead whatever it may be. So we accept our real goal, and we remain in our goal, that path. So here Narada Muni is explaining the goal of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga, that is to worship Supreme Personality of Godhead, and keep that goal in our life and practice devotional service as prescribed by our acharyas. And we should not be diverted from the goal. So when we follow in the footstep of previous acharyas, Mahajano yena gatasa panta, then we are on the right path. We will not be diverted. We have to understand Krishna not only in a theoretical platform, but practically we have to try to realize the things. Indians are trying to imitate Westerners, nowadays. So the goals are different things, and here the goal is diverted. They may be knowing Krishna sometimes, on the theoretically, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even sometimes being devotees, we know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but there is no much conviction. So many doubts. Oh, it's really true. Krishna will help me. It is when I am in difficulty, will Krishna will take care of me? Because goal is not so intense, we may get diverted. So one of the principles of surrender is to completely take shelter. Rakshasya titi vishwaso, that confidence in Krishna should be there, that whatever happens, avashya rakshibe Krishna. So Krishna consciousness means depend on Krishna, but people want to be independent. I want to stand on my own foot. Why I should take shelter of other people? Why I should take shelter of my father, parents, or Krishna? No, not like that. Actually, we should be dependent on Krishna. We have to sacrifice everything for Krishna. Pranair arthair diya vacha. Sometimes we see the nationalists, they are sacrificing their life, for but they are doing for the wrong goal or temporary goal. But here, being devotees, our goal is right. We learn the lessons. We should be very intensive towards same what the intensity the nationalist other persons may be having. We should have similar intensity, but towards Krishna. Our goal is fixed. We are going towards the right goal, but we will increase our intensity in Krishna consciousness. That laulyam we have to develop. There's here in Daksha and Shiva there were conflicts, and we see so much of conflicts. Daksha and Narada, exactly, even though from one side, sometimes goal is not right. Krish, other materialistic people we see, they are so much intense, but Krishna is not there. But in devotee's life, the goal is very clear: Krishna prema. So that is the reason, sometimes devotees may get doubt. Sometimes if I go practice Krishna consciousness seriously, then my material goal, I may lose it. I may become weakened by it. But we should not think in that direction, because when our goal is Krishna, there is no separate two things. Our occupational duties, material duties, also it's a part of the original goal, which is Krishna consciousness. All go in hand. The problem comes when we separate it two things. This is my private life, this is my material life, this is my spiritual life. I make it two. It is always in the devotee's life, it is not two. This is not my, we don't say this is my material life, this is my spiritual life. Everything is spiritual life. My occupational life also goes hand with my spiritual life. The same thing happened with the Pandavas, because the spiritual master uses our propensities in such a way that he channelizes everything in the Krishna consciousness. As per the varnashrama dharma, he channelizes the propensity. In Pandavas, their propensity was to rule. And Krishna encouraged and he facilitated to fulfill those propensities. And Krishna personally involved. He wanted to give them and to fulfill their propensity to rule, because they were Kshatriyas. But these things are in line with pure devotional service. But the same Kauravas, they also had propensity to rule, but there was no Krishna. Krishna was not there. Krishna was not involved. They were not Krishna consciousness. That's why they failed. But whereas Pandavas, they had propensity to rule, their propensity was fulfilled. And it's in line with the Krishna consciousness. Ravana and Indrajit or Meghanath, they both wanted to become immortal. But who became immortal? Vibhishan. Actually, Vibhishan did not want to become immortal. But Vibhishan, he is a Chiranjeev. So that's why in devotional service, we should not think this is my private life, this is my spiritual life. Not like that. Devotional service means it is all inclusive, all occupied. Our family life is devotional life. Our occupational life is our devotional life. So when we understand from this point of view, then there is no conflict of different goals. Our goal is clear. So that's a reason. Here we have to understand that we should be fixed in our goal, and spiritual master or our shiksha gurus or advanced devotees, senior devotees, they use our propensities to, and they channelize our propensities to fulfill our goal by guiding, by engaging us in such a way in the service, so that our final goal is fulfilled. That is pure devotional service. But if we don't follow them, then there is no goal. That means there is only imagination. Devotional life becomes, kind of, no, the empty husk. There is no, rice inside. So it should not happen like that. Goal is Krishna, and we follow the authorities. And by the mercy of Vaishnavas, by the mercy of Guru, one can attain the real goal. So following authorities is very important. And we see we have to accept the conditions which are favorable for devotional service, and we have to reject the things which are unfavorable for devotional service. And when we take pleasure in rejecting the things which are unfavorable for devotional service, after a few years, if we see, we think that I have made the right decision by rejecting which is not unfavorable. So this way we have to make our goal focused. That's what even Prachetas, they are asking Srila Narada Muni, and they wanted to make sure that they are not missing the real goal. So we should also be fixed in our goal of pure devotional service and act accordingly as per the direction of our spiritual masters or senior Vaishnavas. So with this, I would like to conclude here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Are there any questions or comments or suggestions, please? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for a very nice class giving an overview
Hare
about
Krishna.
the real goal of life, how we should align ourselves to the real goal of life. What happens, if one is attached at the bodily platform or the mental platform, and what would be their level of consciousness. You beautifully explained that, Prabhuji, and also you mentioned nicely that for devotees, there is no difference between spiritual and material, because for them, everything is spiritual. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. And the devotees may please unmute your line and share any questions or comments that you may have.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna,
much for the wonderful lecture, Prabhu. But in spite of hearing this philosophy day in and day out, I feel it's not sinking inside. So what can be done, Prabhu?
It is not that it is not sinking in. It takes some time. It's like, when we come to the hospital, it's like hospital. In hospitals, you will see so many different kinds of patients, and you see also there are some doctors. We should not expect as immediately as soon as we come inside the hospital we will get cured. Depending on the kind of diseases or the seriousness of diseases, it takes some time. The main thing what we should be doing is to take the treatment properly and follow the doctors. So similar way in the Krishna consciousness, ISKCON is like a hospital for the conditioned souls who are having kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. So this conditioning will be there, but as long as we are chanting and hearing, we are taking the treatment medicines, it's just a matter of time that we get cured of all these anarthas and we get Krishna prema. It is the one example is given, when we are going 100 floored building, we go inside the lift and we press the button, say 90th floor, and you stand and you feel that you are standing. It's no, we are not going, lift is not going up only. But when the 90th floor comes, suddenly you realize that you have come to 90th floor. A devotional service is like that only. The devotional practice is sublime. That's why what our authorities or the spiritual master gives, we just follow them. And when we please them, by their mercy, we can achieve the success. So it is just a matter of time. As I mentioned in the class, actually, even Kanishta Bhakta is also a pure devotee. All are pure devotees. But there is, it's Srila Prabhupada who uses the word imperceptibly liberated. Imperceptibly liberated means actually the devotees are liberated, but it's a matter of time for them to realize that. It takes some time for it. And when we are in the right direction, when we are following the process, the success is definitely guaranteed. Hare Krishna.
Hare
I
Krishna.
hope it's answered.
Yes, thank you so much, Prabhu. Patience, perseverance, and hope is we should develop it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dandavat
Pranam. Hare Krishna. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was about to ask that, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna devotees, are there any other questions? There are no questions, Prabhuji. Maybe we can end today's session
Okay.
with the Vaishnava Pranam.
Yes, Prabhu.
Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindho bhyayeva patithanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagadguru Sri Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for a wonderful class again.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We will be ending today's Zoom session. We will meet again tomorrow morning, Krishna willing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.